We live in a world of darkness. We live in a world where evil it's around every corner. Just open up your phone in the morning and take a look at your news app. What do you see? You see atrocity after atrocity. You see problems absolutely everywhere. The truth is, there is a demonic world out there whose main mission is to bring death and chaos. But Jesus has overcome that, and he brings freedom to those who turn to him. There's a story in the Bible where Jesus comes face to face with a demonized man. And maybe a better way to say it is that Jesus comes face to face with those demons himself. You don't see a power struggle in the story. You don't see a negotiation. You see Jesus simply give these demons a command and they are forced to leave. Now this is good news because the man in this story was completely hopeless until Jesus showed up and freed him. My name is JD and this is Understanding the Bible. It's where we pull the gold out of the scripture so that we can apply it to our lives and live in freedom. In Mark 1:21 and following, it says, "And they went into Capernaum, and immediately on the Sabbath he entered the synagogue and was teaching." Now, the Sabbath was the day of rest, and the synagogue was like Jewish church. It's where they would go to worship, to hear teaching, basically to get their spiritual download for the week. But this week was not like any other week because Jesus himself was teaching. It says, "And they were astonished at his teaching, for he taught them as one who had authority and not as the scribes." The scribes were the religious elite. They were the guys who knew their Bibles backwards and forwards. They were kind of like the smartest guys of any room they walked into. The problem is they were highly corrupt. And the way that they produced authority was by quoting what other scribes had said. And so what you have is you have this corrupt circle of approval that is the definition of authority, and it's powerless. But when Jesus comes on the scene, there is a flood of power. And it reveals itself when it says, "And immediately there was in their synagogue a man with an unclean spirit. And he cried out, 'What have you to do with us, Jesus of Nazareth? Have you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Holy One of God.'" The question you have to ask yourself is, how long had that guy been going to that service? He'd probably been going for years, and the demons would have been quiet because it was a powerless situation that they would have been in week after week. But now when you have God himself in front of them teaching, what you see is power that just unloads on them, and the demons can't stand it. And so they throw a tantrum. And Jesus is going to come and speak directly to this, and he's going to free this man. The next verse says, Jesus rebuked him, saying, "Be silent and come out of him." Like I said before, there was no power struggle. There was no negotiation. Jesus calmly utters a command, and the demons are forced to obey. It says, "And the unclean spirit, convulsing him and crying out with a loud voice, came out of him." And it says they were all amazed, so that they questioned among themselves, "What is this? A new teaching with authority? He commands even the unclean spirits, and they obey him." And if you think about this, Jesus is doing something that nobody else has ever done before. He is speaking to the demonic world, and the demonic world is forced to obey. Jesus speaks directly into that problem here, and the demons have to submit. It's no doubt when it says at once his fame spread everywhere throughout the whole surrounding region of Galilee. The reality is that the demonic world plays a part. It wreaks havoc on humanity, and Jesus is the solution. The question that I want to ask is, does the reality of evil, specifically the kind that's talked about in this story, evil spirits or unclean spirits, does that sound familiar? Because if it is, I want you to know that there's hope. There's hope because when you turn to Jesus Christ and you give him your life, Jesus comes in and he cleans house. When Jesus comes into your life, the demonic has to flee. The invitation of Jesus is always there, but we need to turn to him. When you do turn to him, what happens is he brings peace to the chaos. He brings freedom that you never knew could exist. And that's my prayer. My hope and my prayer for you is that you would turn to him. Thanks.